Beck confirmed McCabe is running this whole thing.
The guy you thought was dead?
The guy I thought I killed.
The show kicks off where the previous episode left off, as Reacher keeps trying his best to reach Duffy and her partner regarding an impending danger ahead. But the calls are blocked due to the factory lining. He immediately calls Steve Elliott, who calls the duo at the factory number, and luckily for them, Duffy picks up in the nick of time before a serious shooting begins. Just then, Reacher also arrived just in time to help out. Once he was in, he quickly began eliminating them. Duffy also eliminated few of the goons. Reacher approached Duffy to devise a plan for their escape, but he is also aware of the fact that if all of them die, he will be suspected of foul play, considering that all his previous gunfights have ended the same way. As Duffy and Villanueva run out of the factory, one of Beck's goons named Harley is left alive, so Reacher immediately picked him using his vehicle in order to chase after Duffy. So in order to stop the chase, Reacher runs the car into a ditch, leaving them unable to chase after his friends. Still, the encounter is enough to prove to Harley that the people he just shot at were federal agents, and that raises some flags for Beck and his operations. Once Duffy and Villanueva got to a safe place, she laments her partner about them not finding Teresa Plus now. Beck is aware that some federal agent are after him and probably investigating his business. Although this won't stop her from still investigating and continuing the mission, as she is of the opinion that odd get beaten at times. The scene then shifted to Reacher arriving with Harley at Beck Mansion. Once the two were in, Reacher assisted Harley in getting rid of the dead bodies of the men killed at the factory. He discovers that there is a spot where the water current is so fast that when they dump the bodies, they vanish into thin air. Reacher makes a mental note of the thing. On their way, Harley warned Reacher about PAULIE, stating he was going to mess him up if Reacher ever go against a man like PAULIE, and when that happens, Reacher might probably end up just like the way the other dead guys ended up. He's simply referring to the water current which is used for body disposal. So once Reacher was done getting rid of Harley, he calls up Duffy to check if she and Guillermo are now safe. Duffy informs Reacher that she and Guillermo are going to hit some of the other warehouses that belong to Beck, whose addresses they obtained from the laptop, but Jack tells her to be very careful as this mission is beginning to get dangerous, because Beck and Quinn are now going to be better prepared after the shootout at the factory earlier. Reacher also tells Duffy that he has her badge in his possession, which Reacher will hide in a pillow cover in his room until he meets her again. Just as they were discussing, Reacher is soon interrupted by Beck yelling his name, so immediately he hangs up as Beck beckons him to take care of the two men who have been sent by Quinn after the run-in with the DA agents of the warehouse. So Reacher got into the house for business, although Reacher is supposed to quell those guys' apprehensions about how Beck is running things. However, things got intense when one of the guys passes sexual remarks at Annette. During the heat of the moment, Reacher knocks him out quickly.
Funny now.
Once Reacher was done with that, he headed straight in his room to hide Duffy's badge, but just then he heard a knock, so he goes to check it out, only to find out that Annette had left a thank you note and a pie in front of Jack's bedroom for his act of chivalry, which he gladly accepts. Meanwhile, at the DEA hideout, where Elliot is babysitting, the guy who was driving Richard's car when he was kidnapped. Just as Elliot was doing so, John pleads with Elliot to help him out with a cigarette, and since Elliot is such a nice guy, he breaks protocol in order to help his hostage, unbeknownst to him that it was a trap. So when Elliot turns around to get the cigarette and the lighter, Cooper drinks from the bottle of drinking alcohol on the desk, which Elliot was using to tend to Cooper's wounds. As soon as Elliot ignites the lighter, Cooper spits out the alcohol, thereby setting Elliot on fire, and then Cooper proceeds to stomp on Elliot's head until he is dead. Unfortunately, by the time Duffy got to the cabin, she found Elliot's lifeless body on the floor and discovered John Cooper had escaped. Immediately, Duffy called Reacher to inform him of the whole situation at hand, because if Cooper gets to Beck or gets in touch with Quinn, he's going to expose Reacher's true identity and plans. Duffy informed Reacher he has to leave the building immediately as the mission has been compromised, but just then Duffy got an idea to check Elliot's smartwatch to see when his heart spiked, because that gives her an idea of when Cooper attacked him, when he escaped, and how far he probably is from Beck's estate. Based on all this information, Reacher believes that Cooper is somewhere on the road leading to the house, and he needs to intercept him before he reaches his destination. So since Guillermo is close to the highway, Reacher calls him to inform him of Elliot passing, and also to get to the location where they are going to kill Cooper. On the other hand, Duffy goes to the nearby transformer and destroys it, which kills the power supply at the estate. Meanwhile, Reacher makes up a story to Beck informing Beck that since he has killed Angel Doll and his associates, he is certain that those who Angel Doll was working for are looking to get revenge. Before Beck can question the authenticity of this tale, Reacher rushes out to join Guillermo under the pretext of making sure that the perimeter is secure. Nearby, Guillermo prepared himself while Reacher drove to his destination. Once Reacher arrived, he told Guillermo to flip his car by the roadside in order to use the slope to their advantage to push the car over. Then Guillermo is asked to get inside the vehicle in order to make it seem like he was in a car accident. Just as the two discuss, They heard sound of an incoming vehicle approaching their way, and luckily for them, it was Cooper. Immediately, he stopped to get help out, and just then Reacher shot him dead. Reacher informed Duffy about the death of Cooper, just as he was driving back to Beck's house. Back inside the house, McCabe orders Beck to search his staff and make sure there aren't any moles in there. Immediately, they all began to search the whole building, so when Reacher arrived, he is shocked to find the house empty. He goes into Beck's office to inform him everything was under control, but at that moment, Beck informed Reacher that while he was gone, he had this boys search the whole place for a mole. However, we discover that while Quinn's men didn't find Duffy's badge that was in Reacher's room, they do discover a secret phone, just like the one Reacher has been using to communicate with Duffy in Annette's room. It turns out that Annette wasn't just a maid. She was working for an organization known as ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. So immediately Reacher requested to speak to her in hopes that he can save her or buy her some time by interrogating her, but unfortunately, he is shocked to learn that PAULIE has killed her. In anger, Reacher punched PAULIE, but sadly this didn't even affect him, but instead, PAULIE hit Reacher, making him realize that he was no match for PAULIE. Later on, Harley and Jack head out to dump Annette's body, and he informed Reacher to keep his mouth shut about Annette being dead as the other maid were told she was fired for simply stealing from Beck business. The two eventually got to the location where Annette was killed, and Reacher is sad to find her in such state. However, since Harley kept on talking, Reacher punches him out of frustration. That same night, Reacher goes in to check up on Jack, who in return tell him it is okay to be afraid of PAULIE as he himself and his father are also afraid of him. However, Reacher says he isn't afraid of PAULIE, plus he is never going to underestimate him. Once they were done, Reacher called Duffy to let her know about Annette's death, and he informs her that an ATF agent's presence in Beck's estate means that McCabe is using Beck's rug business to smuggle guns. Plus, the plethora of guns all over the place should have been the biggest indicator, but since owning all kinds of guns is so common in the United States, it is tough to accuse someone of being in the gun-selling business. The next day, Beck informed Reacher that they have been summoned to the warehouse because there's a massive sale that's going to happen between McCabe and probably his Russian associates. So when Reacher called Duffy to inform her of the whole situation, she tells him to make an excuse and not to go for the meeting, because if Quinn is faking his amnesia, he's going to recognize Reacher immediately and kill him instantly. However, Reacher on the other hand revealed to Duffy that it is obvious Teresa is already dead, given the fact they killed Annette instantly. Immediately they realized she was working for the Fed. Once the call was over, Reacher drove Beck to go meet with Quinn, and after a long drive, they arrive at their destination, where Reacher armed himself just in case of necessity. The episode then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more episodes next week. Thanks for watching and goodbye.